Hey guys, and welcome back. This is ChosenArchitect. Today we're diving back to some more mechanical mastery. I hope you guys are ready. So today is going to be all about getting that mechanism up and running. And of course, our ultimate goal is to eventually, with this mechanism started, start to work on 25 time ore processing. As the quest mentions right here, it's kind of confusing as normally you read left to right, and this is set up right to left. But this is our ultimate goal, and it does tell us you can get over 25 ingots per ore. And what you're going to do is we start here, right? Chemical dissolution, chemical injector, purification chamber. And then it talks a little bit more about the process that's going to happen here. Then you crush that and you get the product. You take it over here to a mechanism crusher. It splits that into 2. And then you can get up to 2.5 out of your reagent. And then you, inside of your pulverizer, and then ultimately you smelt everything. This will get 25 times. But we do need to get mechanism up and running first, and getting the automation of just about all of those components that we're going to need for all of these machines, because it does get kind of tedious if you do this by hand, but automating it makes this so much easier. Now, getting the mechanism up and running, well, I'm going to have to extend the roof on this bad boy. That's right, I'm going to cap this off, and then I'm going to extend up and add another floor, and that's going to be where most of the mechanism stuff is going to go. Now, I think I'm long overdue for this, but to help me in my endeavors, of course, I am going to go ahead and make all of the red matter stuff. I have plenty of EMC to be able to handle us crafting this now, so might as well get it all done. And I'm going to end up making myself, I believe, the Morning Star and the Qatar. However, the Morning Star I'm kind of always scared of, because all it takes is one wrong click with this thing and you've broken everything in your base. Also, might as well make myself a backpack as well. That way I can just keep all of my extra stuff in there and free up my inventory slots. So of course, it goes in my back slot, and I should be able to open it with my B key. Now on this, to be able to control some of these tools, just to show this, by default it breaks pretty fast, but you can actually speed this up by hitting the V key, make sure there's no conflicts. And I believe each tier makes the breaking speed a bit faster. I mean, to the point where it'll insta break. I think obsidian is a pretty good thing to use for this. So you can see its break speed at this point can go even higher. And one more level, and it's even faster now. So and then if you want to go down, you hold shift in V, and it'll take it down slower. As you can see, it's a little bit slower now on breaking this, but still pretty fast, even without any enchants on it. So remember how I said you can accidentally mess up and, mess up? Yeah, and destroy everything? I may have just done that. I didn't realize the Qatar literally did that. What if I've got a load of backup now? I can't. That's so many blocks. It destroyed every stratification log I have placed in this entire base. What even? I guess this is what I get for using those tools. I knew I shouldn't have started using them. So that's one of the reasons why I don't tend to, utilize the ProjectE weapons and tools. The weapons are really nice, but the tools and the weapons, because they both act in the same way, can be very destructive of things you build. I've got to rebuild everything that I had just done. At least I don't have to hand place all of these again, but I have a lot to get back and redo. So after a couple more hours of working on the uppermost part of this build, getting this all done, I now have the 3 levels, which is really nice. It is very nice to be able to have some extra space. And we're going to need this for some mechanism stuff. Now, most of the automation should be able to easily fit in this area. And yeah, let's get started. Now, for this setup, it's actually pretty interesting and compact. So I should be able to get away with using only 4 metallurgic infusers, and then we'll have our single enrichment chamber for making all of the different alloys from mechanism. To do this, just to make it very clear how I am going to be producing these, we're going to make ourselves infused alloy, but we have to set up I think the hardest part is getting the setup on the recipes correct. So you can actually tell how much this needs in Redstone by looking at the redstone amount here. So it's 10 millibuckets. So 1 iron uses 10 millibuckets. Well, you need to figure out how much is 10 millibuckets. 10 millibuckets is a single piece of redstone. You can see right here. But what we can do is we can batch this and we can make enriched redstone, saving us on redstone. And this will allow us to make 8 of the single infused alloy off of a single redstone dust, so long as it goes through an enrichment chamber. So it's way more effective to use the enriched version. And so what we're going to do is set up an enrichment, use that enrichment chamber for all of these different enriched pieces here. And that's going to make it a little bit easier and save us on the big thing that we need to save on and try to be as resourceful as possible. And that's EMC. I know we're pretty much making redstone infinitely at this point for 1 EMC, but we do have to be mindful of all this. So right in here, we have all of these things ready to go. And this is going to prep us for that 25, because once we have all these components, we can make all of the machines you see here. That's going to lead us into that 25 times roughly ingot production, which that thing is going to be pretty darn cool. Now I'm using personal barrels here just to keep the look of Mekanism. You can use any barrels. You don't have to do anything fancy here. I just happen to be using those. So right down here, I can place down all of my machines and I should be able to keep this fairly clean. I'm going to go 3 blocks off and have all of my machines laid out right here. And then this one in the middle. And then what I'm going to need is some logistic cables. This is just where everything is going to be connected to this on top and on back, because we're going to have multiple inputs on this, right? It's all going to be pulled out of these barrels that you see here, these personal barrels. These personal barrels are then, once they're set up, they are going to be connected to the crafter here. And the crafters are going to go on top. Of course, I'm going to have to change the direction of the crafters, but these are all going to go on top and they're going to face in. And then this is going to be connected with some refined storage cables. Now, the only other thing we need to worry about is hooking up an importer that is going to accept all of the outputs. So on these machines, the way these are going to be configured is very simple. We can clear off all the sides and we can say on the items input from the top, that's going to be the main input. And then the back of this machine is going to need to be this yellow secondary, this yellow slot. And then the bottom is going to be the output. So all of these machines are going to be this particular configuration. Now, one way to make this a little bit easier on us is to make a configuration card. And this configuration card allows us to shift right click to copy and then right click to paste all of these settings onto our different machines. Now, it will not work for this machine because this is an enrichment chamber, but all of the similar machines, you can make cards specifically for configuring those. And you'll notice here that the configurations have been carried over. How cool is that? Same thing goes for this one though. It's going to be the exact same setup except input and output. Very simple here. Now, I do need to separate all of these cables just like so, but don't separate the back here or anything like that. They're going to just be separated like so. And they're going to run on their own. Now, at the moment, none of this stuff is upgraded, right? We are going to be upgrading all of these, and even the cables can be upgraded just by right-clicking the new alloys. And so as we get the alloys crafted, we can then use them to upgrade these machines, and these machines can be upgraded even further, not to complicate anything, but they can be upgraded with just these basic tier installers. And so you can just set up Autocraft to craft all of these basic tier installers. I think we almost have everything. So with refined storage, these just need to be rotated. Of course, it's the last rotation goodness for all of these. And then I just got to get the fun part, which is the logistics of the cables and how I'm going to implement that. I think what I'm going to do is in the middle of this room, since I have 2 layers here, I might just use the central cable and have the cable just running up into this, and then yet again use the cables underneath here to access all of this. So now with all of this hooked in, I would say this is pretty compact. Everything is all in here. We're going to need some speed upgrades, definitely stack upgrades. So I don't know if I have, but I need 5 stack upgrades. Going to cost quite a bit. And then a speed upgrade, I think, in each one of these, just to make sure it can keep up once we have it fully upgraded. And outside of that, this is just ready to have patterns crafted for it. Look at that. How simple. Like, this has been refined over modpack after modpack that I have played that has needed this particular setup. And I would have to say this is incredibly functional. You could technically get away with only using one metallurgic infuser, but the reason why I like to have multiple is because it just allows it to go even faster when crafting. Once these are, of course, upgraded fully, they have multiple infuser slots, but you still only have one tank for fluids. And so when it comes to the mechanism side of things, when you have all of these different resources needed, this needs redstone, right? This needs diamonds, and this needs obsidian, right? When you have all of that stuff, well, you're going to need multiple things. And then also steel, right? Steel requires an enriched carbon, and that requires coal inside of a slot. So because of that, I have I have 4 of those. So 3 of them for the base alloys. And then usually I have 1 dedicated to making steel, or the combination of 2 to making steel. Now, one of the other limiting factors is going to be how fast our crafters can actually send items out into the containers. So I don't know if this is a huge deal or not, as I don't think really speed for us is going to be a crazy problem. But I think these going in here will help. I don't know if this actually affects how quickly it can output things, or if this affects how fast they actually craft things from within them. So I don't know. I guess we'll figure that out over time. But definitely the stack and the speed upgrades are worth it for the importers. That way we can get the items transferred back and forth quickly. All right, I think we're just about ready. The only thing I need to do is make sure this is on extract mode. And then we're going to set the patterns up. That's about it. Now, this particular task can be quite daunting inside of this, but I want to try and make it as easy as possible. Now, redstone, when it comes to making this, we definitely want to make sure we get our basic patterns going for all of our enriched things first. Probably going to be one of the easiest things to do. Now, enriched diamond, that makes it super easy. We can just use diamond. We don't have to use a crushed variant or anything like that. Now, enriched obsidian, this is a little bit more complicated, but we will need refined obsidian dust, which is going to come through a metallurgic process, which utilizes the diamond, as you can see here. But we definitely want to get that process. These are all things that are going to end up going inside of our enrichment chamber. So all of those made up. As of right now, I don't really need gold. I think gold's really only used to make netherite, which is super easy just to handcraft. It will use less gold if you do it this way, though. And then enriched tin. I don't know if there's a use for this. Okay, so this is just used to make bronze. That's kind of interesting. Okay, but I don't think that's going to be necessary for this pack. So I have all of the basic patterns done. Now, moving into this is where we need to know rates, right? And probably having 1 of each would be, actually, I would say it would be a good idea, but it's not necessary either. I was going to say we might need to have 1 of these each craft, but refined storage has changed so much, it's made it actually really easy to handle this. So let's go ahead and put this in. So you can see 1 right here equals this. However, this is empty. Like, we have nothing here saying that it needs iron. And that's probably a good thing, because we don't really want it to show anything. We want to be able to define what it's going to make. So 1 enriched redstone, we actually want this to make 8 of these per process. And we want this to also consume 8. So for 1 enriched redstone, as we can see in this equals 8. And we know that the individual craft here only requires 10. So we know that if we fill this here, we want to make sure that we're also feeding it the same amount of iron that is going to equal the output. And so that's where I'm getting these numbers from. So this will equal 8 infused alloy. And that's pretty much how I'm going to be doing the rest of them as well. Not everything is like this, though. So for example, moving to the next one, right? This says it takes 20. And if we look and see how we obtain this, 80 is made here, which means this will only make 4 of the process when we use the enriched here. So we'll need to feed it 4 of these, and the output will then be 4. And it's going to take this, one of these. And so there we go. So now we have the refined output. And then same for the atomic. The atomic, this actually you only get 2. So keeping in mind this right here, you get 80, it needs 40. So you only get 2 in return out of your enriched. So these just need to be set to 2. And there that recipe is made. So here we go. I mean, I'm literally making all the recipes, and it's not as painful as you might think. Even for me, early on when I was initially learning Mekanism and going through all of these processes for automating things, it was pretty daunting. It's pretty daunting, especially trying to make sure that you know how much of something needs to go where. It can get pretty daunting. Even the like later parts of Mekanism, I'm still not quite familiar with. So it's still a learning process for me. But once you get this set up and automated, this mod becomes so much easier to manage. Oh, because you can just literally go, hey, I need blah, 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 and it auto-crafts it. Now, pretty much the same goes for this, the refined obsidian. We are going to need obsidian powder for this from Mekanism. So let's start with that at the base. This will give you 4, and it's actually an enrichment chamber process. So yet another reason to use that enrichment chamber. But in this process for the refined, we also need 1 to 1 on the diamond. And if we remember, that's 8. So when we set up this recipe, we'll make sure to pull the diamond over and make sure to set each of these to 8. And there's that process as well. I think the only other thing left to do is to make steel, I believe. Now for steel, it's also 1 to 1. And it utilizes the enriched carbon. And so it's going to be, with it 1 to 1, it's 8 to 8 as the result. And same for all the other processes that it's going to use. So to make the steel dust, taking from the enriched iron, which, the enriched iron goes in here, and the steel dust, that one's also going to be 8 as well. It's exactly the same. So there we go. So all of that's set up. And this is ready to go on our crafters. And I believe we're ready to get to auto crafting and getting this bad boy up and running. Very, very nice. Now, of course, all the enrichment stuff goes in here. And then this, I like to sort of DV these out a little bit. So I like to separate them, and then the steel and then the dust over here, I like to keep them in their own container. Well, actually, I like to take one of the steel and actually separate it so we can have both running at once. But I guess you could put all of the steel in one. It really doesn't matter, I don't think, now that I think about it more. Hey, yeah, it really doesn't 100% matter because this is going to be filled with coal regardless. But either way, we are just about ready to go. Let's go ahead and test this out, and let's craft an atomic alloy. And so it's going to start the process. It's going to be slow. We have 0 upgrades in these machines. So it is going to be incredibly slow at first getting these upgraded. But as you can see, things are going to start processing through time. And so once this is all done and we have all the resources, there you go. You can see it's making the next tier. Slowly but surely, we're going to have all of these machines upgraded. So here's the first tier upgrade installed. This, of course, is going to make it significantly faster because it opens up more slots, right? For these, I'm going to go ahead and set this to automatically swap them over and to try and do multiples at once. I think that's usually the best practice on this. And here is the second tier, which is going to be even nicer because it opens up even more slots. And by the way, there it is. There's the atomic alloy that we just crafted. And so what I should start doing now is just getting these tier installers on AutoCraft. And that means also crafting up and setting up patterns for all of these different tiers of circuits. Man, you can't just not look at that and go, man, that is a clean setup here. Very, very clean. I mean, I don't think it gets any cleaner than that. I've tried. I mean, maybe using XNet. That's about the only way it could look any prettier because you can facade XNet cables. So now that I have that beautiful contraption behind me, I should probably start worrying about power and how we're going to power all of these machines in the future, leading into that 25 times ore processing. And well, to do that, I think moving to a gas burning generator is going to be at least a good start. I've set one of these up recently, and I found that probably one of the most effective and simplest ways of setting this up is to go about it this particular way. So what we're going to do is first place down the pressurized reaction chamber. It's going to go here. That's quite simple. It doesn't get simpler than that. Then to the right, I can use a crusher. In this particular case, it doesn't really matter if the crusher's on the left or the right, just whatever you're most comfortable with. And then an electrolytic separator, but we place it backwards just to make sure that everything's going in the right way. If you do happen to place the crusher on the right hand or the left hand side, keep in mind that you will have to change some settings on the electrolytic separator so that way hydrogen goes into this PRC, which is what we're going to be working towards. Now on the bottom, I'm going to need access to a couple of things, and that's going to be the crusher and the pressurized reaction chamber. So the pressurized reaction chamber is going to be generating substrate. We're going to be doing this recipe right here to make ethylene. And then the ethylene is going to get piped into a gas burning generator. That's pretty straightforward. But we need to make sure that substrate goes somewhere. And so we are going to need an importer on the bottom of this, and then the crusher to be able to make the substrate. This needs biofuel. And so the biofuel, we need a source of that. And so we're going to have an exporter on the bottom here. And that exporter is going to be giving sugarcane. Because it's an EMC-able thing, I was looking, and a stack of sugarcane is the equivalent of pulling out 1 iron raw ore, I believe. Or the equivalent of 2. It's like 2,000 EMC for a full stack of sugarcane. So this is not crazy at all. And this will actually give us 4 out of it. 4 biofuel. Not the best, but for something that's EMC-able, it's not bad at all. And so that is going to trickle in there. Of course, some speed upgrades are probably going to be necessary. Shoot, how about a stack upgrade? Do I have a stack upgrade? Let's just make sure we have a stack upgrade in this. And that's going to make sure that always has this in here. And then last but not least, we are going to need that gas burning generator, and that can go, I think, just right on top. Now, we are going to have to configure this setup here. And what I'm going to need is all of this to be turned off, auto eject on. I want the input to be on the bottom and the output for this, which is going to be this product, to send to the left side, which is going to be sent to the PRC. Now, the PRC by default should already be somewhat configured. It looks like the output here, that's going to have to go to the top, and the bottom, I don't know if these outputs are different. By the way, if this config is in your way, you can always move it around, which is really handy to know. But I'm going to go ahead and clear this anyways. The input definitely needs to be coming from the right. Well, actually, no items. The input needs to be coming from the right on the item page, which is what we're on. And then we're going to output the items to the bottom. Then we need to configure the gases. So the gas is going to input on here. The only thing we need to say is output to the top, and that's about it. So input from the right, output from the top. Liquids are going to be input from the back. So we're going to do the inputs on that as well. Because these two machines need water. That's why we have this spot back here, which is going to be for an aqueous accumulator. And then so we'll just put some water here. And pretty simple there. And then we'll use some basic pipes to connect here and make sure these are being fed properly with water. I'm pretty sure this is already set up, so you can see that's sending hydrogen, so we don't even need to mess with this machine to configure it, other than oxygen needs to be dumping excess. Otherwise, we're going to run into a little bit of a problem where it will stop working. So other than that, I think this right here should be ready to go. I'm hoping this can automatically send this gas. Let's make sure under gases, auto eject, and it should be able to auto eject right into the gas burning generator. It looks like it's already done that. I think it's built up. So ender gates. Let's put up our ender gates and get this powered and see if this is going to start producing some gas in here. That's what we want to see. So there it goes. This is his first process. We should see gas build up, and gas has made its way into here. And as you can see, that is filling up, and this can generate large quantities of power. Once these machines are upgraded and everything's running smoothly, it'll totally be worth the small amount of EMC that we're investing into this. Believe me. Now, we are pulling out that substrate. And what I'm going to want to do is make sure I have a drawer for this. And we're going to want to make sure that this drawer stays with the substrate. We can even use a drawer upgrade. We can make an upgrade. And then I probably also want a void upgrade on it. This isn't a material that's huge. Later on it's huge, but it's not super huge right away. And I think 512 stacks of it will be more than I'll ever need for this. So we should be good. So there we go. So now the only thing left to do is to put a plug on here, and we need to make sure we're connected to our input line. And there we go. We're ready to go. This is going to build up, and really we want this constantly producing. That would be ultimately the goal, but this is just going to produce any residual power that we might need. It's definitely going to come in handy. It's really going to come in handy when we actually need all that power. Now, if this particular setup ever becomes not enough power, well, it's as simple as copying, pasting, and you can do that with the copy and paste gadget. It is quite easy to use. You copy this setup and make sure you have the machines in your inventory, and you can paste it with the copy paste tools from Building Gadgets. Kind of nice. And I just recently found out you can do that because I didn't know that you can copy machines, but you can totally copy these machines. Now it doesn't copy all the settings, but you can just use this configurator to copy the settings over to the new setup. And yeah, you can easily set up multiples of these modular. It's really nice. I tell you what, I am having a blast playing this, and I hope you guys are enjoying watching. Of course, there's more automation to come. We still have more Mekanism. I'm just sort of jumping ship here to try and get Mekanism up and running as soon as possible, because we are going to need to make fission reactors and get Mekanism going, get the antimatter started as soon as we can, because it is a very lengthy process getting that antimatter, even with the best setup, I think. But guys, if you've enjoyed and you learned something in today's episode, be sure to click that subscribe button and comment something down below if you did, and let me know what you learned. What was something in this episode that you didn't know about? I don't know, comment down below. I'd love to hear. And also give this video a thumbs up. I appreciate you guys. Of course, now it is time to thank the supporter of today's video. And that huge thanks for today's episode is going to go out to Abad. Thank you so much for supporting over on the Discord, becoming a Discord premium member and supporting in one of the best ways possible. I do appreciate you guys. Thanks to all my new supporters recently. I know a lot of you guys may have just recently found out that I did have a Discord and that we do have world downloads and all kinds of cool stuff and supporter perks for you guys over there. Actually, currently there's a server vote going on for the next server that we have going on. Of course, we always keep the Vault Hunter server going and all those fun things. Of course, while I'm still playing them over on Twitch, but be sure to check it out. Be sure to, there's a lot of fun things over on that Discord. And if Discord's something not for you, of course, you can be a member here as well on YouTube. Next to the subscribe button, there's a join button that gets you access to all the same stuff on the Discord as well. So guys, be sure to check that out. I appreciate you guys a lot. I'll see you, of course, in the next episode. And as always, thanks for watching.